I knew something was wrong the second I lifted the garage door. The silence felt heavy, like the air itself was holding its breath, and then my stomach just dropped. My Lamborghini, the one thing I promised myself I would buy if I made it home in one piece, looked like it had been jumped by a demolition crew windshield-shattered hood, caved-in mirrors, hanging tires, slashed glass all over the floor, catching the light like broken ice. For a moment, I just stood there with my hand on the handle, hearing nothing but my own pulse. And if you have ever had your brain refuse to process what your eyes are seeing, you know that split second where reality feels like a bad edit. Like there is no way someone walked into my locked garage and did this. Then the training kicked in. Breathe, slow down, look. So I checked the locks, took pictures, forced myself not to touch anything. Opened the security feed on my phone, and there she was, at 2:13 a.m. Clear as day. Madison Crowell. Pastel cardigan. Neat hair. Cypress gait. HOA president, holding a sledgehammer in one hand, and my HOA emergency key in the other, punching in my code. Like she owned it, stepping into my garage, glancing up at the camera, with a little smirk before she swung. She did not hesitate, did not flinch, just went to work on that car like it had personally insulted her. And you ever watch someone destroy something you bled years to earn and actually enjoy it? Yeah, that happened. My name is Luke Warren. I am 37, did 16 years as an Army mechanic and convoy lead. 3 tours, a couple of surgeries, a plate in my shoulder that clicks when it rains, and when I came home all I wanted was boring. A small house where sprinklers were louder than sirens. A dog that slept through thunderstorms. A place my mom could drive past and say, "He is finally safe." Cypress Gate looked like that answer. Brick mailboxes, trimmed hedges, flyers about community barbecues, and Neighborhood Watch, the kind of place that sells itself on being high standards only. I bought the smallest house on a nice street, went to work at a performance shop, saved every extra dollar, made a couple careful investments, thanks to a buddy who spoke fluent Wall Street, and one day I wired the money and drove home in a matte silver Lamborghini that to me was not a flex. It was a promise kept to the version of me that almost did not make it back. The first weekend I parked it in the driveway, the neighbor kids went wild. One asked if it was Batman's car, and I told him only on Fridays. Dads came over pretending not to be impressed while asking for specs. It was pure harmless fun. It felt like what I thought normal was supposed to feel like. Then Madison walked over. If you built an HOA president in a lab, you would get her. Clipboard tight smile that looked like she is mentally highlighting violations. She stared at the car like it was graffiti. "Beautiful vehicle," she said, tone completely flat. I told her thanks, I had worked a long time for it. "We do have guidelines about commercial-grade displays and visual impact," she added. I thought she was kidding. "It is just my car," I said. "We will review," she answered, and turned away like the conversation was over. 3 days later, the first letter hit my mailbox. Improper vehicle visibility from the street. Then one for garage door left open beyond appropriate interval. There was no such rule written anywhere. Then, engine noise disturbing the peace at 9:28 a.m. on a Saturday while mowers were roaring on every block. All of them signed by Madison. So I went to the HOA meeting. She read my name off her packet like it hurt her teeth. "We have received multiple complaints regarding Ms. Warren's exotic vehicle and its disruptive presence," she announced. I raised my hand, kept my voice steady. "Can you show me which written rule I broke?" Mark, the actual HOA president on paper, shifted, would not quite look at me. We do not have finalized language yet, Madison cut in. We are updating the bylaws to reflect community standards. I said, so I am being fined for something that does not exist yet. A couple people looked down. She did that little tight smile again. That was the moment I clocked her. This was not about rules. This was about control. After that, it turned into a slow grind. I would catch her at dawn, taking pictures in front of my house. She stepped into my open garage one afternoon, announced I could not operate a commercial detail bay because I owned a pressure washer. When my dog Cooper let out one low growl, she drafted a note about dangerous breeds, and she hinted at escalating fines at possible liens. She told neighbors my car would attract criminals. She told one couple I was unstable from my service, like my deployment record was an HOA risk factor. Off the record, Mark called and said half the board never approved those letters. They just did not want to fight with her. You know how it is. Everyone is busy, nobody wants to be the target, so the bully with the clipboard gets to write her own script. I have seen that movie in a different uniform, so instead of screaming, I started documenting. I upgraded cameras with audio and cloud backup, saved every email, every notice, every time she said, "The board has decided," and the board quietly admitted they had not. Neighbors started knocking quietly. She fined us for a wind chime. She measured my grass with a ruler. She said our kid's bike looks trashy. It was never about order. It was about feeding whatever emptiness she carried by shrinking everyone else. Then came the twist that still makes my jaw clench when I think about it, the key. Madison had pushed this policy that every homeowner should submit a spare key for emergency access, framed like it was for wellness checks and pipe bursts, and trying to be a good neighbor, I handed mine over. Months later, after all the petty wars and fake rules, I left town for a weekend to help my sister. Locked up, checked the cameras, watched the garage door roll down. Saw as I drove off her blinds. Twitch. When I came back and saw that wreck, then watched the footage of her walking up with my labeled key, letting herself in. Smashing that car like she was doing community service. That was when the whole nice neighborhood illusion snapped. This was not a misunderstanding. This was premeditated. So I called 911. Officer Ruiz walked. The garage watched the video once exhaled. "You want to press charges?" he asked. "Everyone you can file," I said. He nodded. Before they drove to her place, he put her on speaker. "Ms. Crowell, this is Officer Ruiz. With the Sheriff's Department, we are investigating significant damage to Mr. Warren's vehicle." Without missing a beat, she said, "If someone finally did something about that eyesore, maybe the neighborhood can breathe again." He asked if she knew anything specific. "That car never belonged here," she snapped. You could hear the venom. Call ended. Ruiz just looked at me. "Yeah," he said. "We are good." That night, they arrested her during an HOA meeting in front of the same people she had been lecturing about trash cans and shutters. They saw the footage, heard that call. Watched their president in practice turn into the defendant, and suddenly everybody found their spine. The board stripped her of authority. The county filed charges for felony mischief, trespassing, burglary. She made bail, of course. And a couple days later, she came down my sidewalk, screaming that I had ruined her life, that my soldier pity story tricked everyone. I did not take the bait. I glanced at the porch camera and said, "You should stop talking." She kept going. That clip went straight into the evidence folder. By the time we were in court, there was nothing left for her to hide behind. Video of her using my key video, of her smashing the car. Her own phone call, where she basically celebrated it, the rant on my sidewalk while on bail. The jury did not need a long lunch break. 5 years mandatory counseling barred from HOA boards. People ask if it is too harsh for a car. For me, it was never just the car. She weaponized a position I trusted, came into my locked space using a key. I gave the HOA in good faith. Tried to paint me as dangerous while she stalked my house. Tried to turn my service record into a liability, and would have kept doing it to other people if nobody ever pushed back. The Lamborghini got repaired. Insurance stepped up. Neighbors suddenly remembered they had always thought she was a bit much. The board wrote a formal apology and rewrote the rules so no one person could run wild like that again. Life went back to something like normal. Cooper snoring on the couch, sprinklers at dusk, the car back in the garage glinting under the light. But what stuck with me was not the dents. It was the silence that helped her get that far, the way a nice street will shrug and say, "That is just how she is," until a hammer hits something they cannot ignore. So let me ask you this, because I know a lot of you have your own version of Madison in your story. Was what happened to her justice too much? Not enough would you have let it slide because it is just a car? Or do you think the line has to be drawn hard when someone uses borrowed power to stomp on what other people worked for? If someone came after the one thing you spent years earning, your home, your name, your peace, how far should you be allowed to go to defend it? Tell me in the comments what you think, whose side you are on, and if you have ever dealt with an HOA tyrant, or a boss, or a neighbor like this, share it. And if you believe people who abuse their little thrones need to see what it feels like when receipts finally hit. The light hit. Like hit. Subscribe. Because trust me, there are a lot more Madisons hiding behind clipboards out there.